Once again, welcome to Ask. I'm Pastor Jamie. In this edition, we're going to talk about, did Jesus really turn water into alcohol? And also, did Moses fast for 40 days from water? And what about Atlantis? Is that in the Bible? Good questions that we'll answer on Ask. All right, so this is where you ask questions. I try to answer them or answer them if you were watching the intro. And you just have to go to our website, CornerstoneBV.org. Just go to the media page. There's a drop down there and just click on Ask. And easy to submit a question, as many of you have done. And just wait, an upcoming episode. We try to do 2 or 3 answers depending on how long they take. And just if you've recently asked a question, we've gotten some in. Don't be frustrated if you don't get an answer. We'll get to it eventually. And definitely keep your questions coming because that's how we can have these. We don't want to be making up questions. We want yours. All right? So the first one, let me just kind of summarize. It just says that has always assumed that Jesus has turned, at the wedding of Cana, turned water into wine, was of course the wine that's fermented, right? So has alcohol. But other arguments have been made saying that it actually was new wine and therefore not alcoholic and more just like what we would consider grape juice. And so something that a person never considered and asked my opinion on it. So here it is. No, it definitely had, I would say it definitely had alcohol in it. It wouldn't have been called wine if it didn't. There is a lot of evidence that there was varying degrees of water content in wines, and it based on the occasion and how much you drank. But here's the thing, that basically it said that Jesus turned water into wine. If this was grape juice, and then it said that the master of ceremonies tasted it and said, wow, why did you save your best wine for the end? In their culture, in their context, there is no way a master of ceremonies would taste grape juice and say, this is the best. That wouldn't have happened. And so it definitely was a fermented wine. I think that comes from traditions that say any alcohol is bad. That's just not biblical. Drunkenness is sinful. Abuse of alcohol is sinful. And if you have an issue with drinking personally, you shouldn't do it. But Jesus certainly drank wine. He just never got drunk, never abused it, for that would have been sin. So I think the best answer contextually is that, yeah, it was what we would consider wine. And those at the wedding were very appreciative of it. Second question, again, to summarize, 9th chapter of Deuteronomy. Moses goes up to the Mount Sinai twice. The people of Israel gathered around the mountain, and first to get the 10 Commandments, and then later on after the golden calf incident, if you're familiar with that. If not, read Deuteronomy 9 and you'll get there. But basically it says that he fasted from water and food. And so for 40 days, both times, it says Moses didn't have water or bread. And so it's like, is this like the question is this really possible? Was this a miracle or what? And so I think the best way to attack this is just say, like, the important details of Deuteronomy 9 are that Moses is in the presence of God, and that he is receiving the 10 Commandments, and then he's interceding on the people's behalf because God is very angry about the golden calf. And so Moses is praying for the people. And so it really goes into detail about that he's in the presence of God, and it's a very serious time with God. And so it just mentions, because it's so serious, he fasts, right, from both food and water. So it doesn't really tell us how that happened, or was it fully the 40 days? I mean, it seems like it. That's what it says. So what I would just say from that is fasting and prayer can be a very important discipline when you're seeking the Lord. That's throughout Scripture, that it can really sort of be a great reminder of the seriousness of what you're coming to God for and about. And I think that is demonstrated in this account. However, you should never fast from water for 40 days. That's a very serious fast that would get you in a lot of physical trouble. So if indeed that's what Moses did, which it says, that would be miraculous. And because he's literally in the presence of God, God could easily sustain Moses in that. So that's about all we know. There's not really a lot of other details given. Last question for today. I thought was a really creative question. Gotten a lot of different questions on Ask, but this one I've never had before. Does the Bible say anything about Atlantis? Right, so that's the lost city of Atlantis. And the answer of that is absolutely not. The story was first told of Atlantis, because it's grown in myth over the years, over the centuries. It was first told, we know, a lot of times we don't know where myths begin, but this one we know began with the philosopher Plato in the year 360 AD. He used this society to represent sort of this society that gets so advanced, but they become they enslave other societies, and so it's not really a good thing. Since then, Atlantis turns into more of a utopian society, like if things could be perfect, you know. But Plato used it as an example of that never happens. That the more power you get, sometimes the more that corrupts you. But to really answer your question, no, it's not found in the Bible. Not going to find Atlantis. The Bible was written before Atlantis was even used as an example by Plato. All right? Make sure you ask your questions. Make sure you come join us to one of our worship gatherings this weekend at either 5 o'clock on Saturday or 9 or 11 on Sunday. We'll see you then, and we'll see you next time on Ask.